What grossed you out so much in a relationship that you just left? Buckle up because this one still visits me in quiet moments. We've been dating about 4 months. He was funny and attentive, the kind of person who remembered small details from conversations weeks later and brought them up in ways that made you feel genuinely seen. I liked him quite a lot. His apartment was a completely normal looking place, not immaculate, but nothing that set off any alarms. Slightly cluttered, dishes in the drying rack, a laundry pile in the corner that appeared to turn over on a reasonable schedule. I registered none of this as significant. First time I stayed over, I noticed a smell. Not when I walked in, later in bed, trying to fall asleep. It was subtle, faint and warm and slightly sour, like something had been sitting in the fabric for a very long time. I told myself it was the building. Old buildings have their own smell. Pipes, previous tenants, years of accumulated history. I fell asleep and didn't think about it again. Second time, same smell. Stronger, or maybe I was just paying more attention. I lay there cataloging it. Not quite mildew, not quite body odor, something in between I couldn't name. I shifted around looking for a spot that didn't have it. There wasn't one. I told myself it was the mattress. Old mattresses smell. Normal. Nothing to think about. Third time I just asked. I said, hey, when was the last time you washed your sheets? He looked at me with the expression of someone who has just been asked a question in a language they studied briefly in high school. Not defensive, not embarrassed, just genuinely uncertain. He thought about it for several actual seconds. He stood there and thought. Then he said he was pretty sure he'd washed them when he moved in. I said, when was that? He said 3 years ago. I sat up and looked at the sheets I was lying in. I looked at them with that particular quality of attention you give something after it has just revealed its true nature. I thought about 3 years, approximately 1,000 nights. All the accumulated heat and sweat and dead skin and hair and everything else the body releases over the course of sleeping somewhere every night for 3 consecutive years without once stripping the bed. Every season, every cold and fever, every single night compounding on top of the last one. Something in me went very quiet and disconnected, like a plug being gently pulled from a wall. I got up and stripped the bed right then. All of it. Sheets, pillowcases, and the duvet cover, which he did not appear to know could be removed. He stood in the doorway watching me with an expression somewhere between baffled and vaguely offended, like I was making a fuss about something that didn't require one. He said it wasn't really necessary. I said it was extremely necessary. He said his mom never made him do this growing up, so it genuinely wasn't something that had ever been on his radar. I said you are a 27-year-old man living on your own, and your mother's laundry schedule is no longer applicable to your situation. He said the sheets had always seemed fine to him. I didn't say what I was thinking, which was that this explained several things. I washed everything twice, put clean sheets on, and it was genuinely like a different bed, and he acknowledged, somewhat grudgingly, that it did smell better. I showed him the detergent, walked him through the machine settings, and put a recurring reminder in his phone every 2 weeks labeled wash sheets in all caps because I felt that level of emphasis was warranted. I gave him the full system. I made it as close to automatic as I possibly could while still requiring him to be the one who actually did it. About a month later, I stayed over. I walked into the bedroom and stopped. The smell was back, faint but unmistakably present, patient and familiar, like it had simply been waiting. I looked at his phone. The reminders were turned off. He said they kept going off at inconvenient times. I looked at the bed for a long time without saying anything. I left the next morning. No argument, no speech. I finished my coffee, said I had somewhere to be, and went. He texted later asking if everything was okay. I said yes, just a busy week. I slowly became less available after that, and he eventually understood without us ever having to name the sheets specifically. What I've come back to since is that it wasn't really about the sheets, or not only. The sheets were the thing that made something else visible. He had slept in that bed for 3 years and genuinely hadn't noticed anything wrong. No smell, no discomfort, no idle wondering. 3 years, and it never once registered. That's a very particular kind of not noticing, not about forgetting, not about being busy. I gave him reminders, and he turned them off. It's about a baseline attentiveness to your own environment that either exists in a person or it doesn't. And once I understood it didn't, I started seeing all the other places it wasn't either. And there were quite a few. Some things you can't unsee, or unsmell, or unsleep in, unfortunately.